Chosen one, pause for a moment because something is shifting around you right now, and this is not by accident. Anointed one, there is a reason this message has reached you in this exact second. Not earlier, not later. Now, because something hidden within you is beginning to surface. Something ancient, something sacred. Something that can no longer remain buried. You have felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing that your life has never followed an ordinary path. The sense that you were placed here, but never truly belonged here. That tension you carry is not confusion, it is recognition. Chosen one, your identity is not being created, it is being revealed. There is a divine timing to all things, as it is written in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And this is your appointed season of unveiling. What was hidden in your bloodline, what was silenced in your spirit, what was delayed in your journey, is now rising. If you feel this stirring within you, stay close. And if this message continues to speak to your spirit, consider subscribing so you do not miss what is meant for you. Because what you are about to understand next will change how you see yourself forever. Chosen one, before you go any further, I need you to recognize what is happening inside you right now. Because this is not just emotion, this is not just curiosity, this is activation. There is something rising in you that you cannot fully explain. A pressure in your spirit. A quiet but undeniable shift. It feels like something is waking up, and at the same time, something is breaking apart. And if you are honest, anointed one, you have felt this before in small moments, late at night, when everything is quiet and you question your life. In conversations where you suddenly feel disconnected, like you are listening but not truly belonging. In those moments when you look around and think, why does none of this feel real to me? I remember a season in my own life where everything looked normal on the outside, but inside, I felt like I was standing in the wrong story. Like I had been placed in a life that didn't match what my soul knew was true. That feeling is not confusion, it is recognition. Chosen one, there is a reason your spirit has never fully settled in this world. Because you were never designed to. You were placed here, yes, but you were not shaped by it. You were surrounded by it, but never meant to become it. And that tension you've carried your whole life, that quiet sense of something is off, that was never weakness. That was your bloodline speaking. Let me explain this to you in a way that you can feel. Imagine a seed that was planted in the wrong soil. It still grows, but not fully. It still survives, but something always feels restricted. No matter how much it tries to adapt, it knows deep inside, this is not where I belong. That has been your life. You adapted, you survived, you learned how to move in environments that never truly understood you. But the truth is, you were never meant to stay there. Chosen one, your life has not been random. The isolation, the misunderstandings, the constant feeling of being different, those were not accidents, those were indicators. Indicators that your identity was never aligned with the system you were placed in. And the reason it has felt so difficult is because something in you has always been resisting being shaped into something you are not. There is a reason you cannot settle for shallow things. There is a reason certain conversations drain you. There is a reason you see through people so quickly. There is a reason you feel deeply when others seem numb. It's because your spirit is operating from a different source. You are not reacting to life the way others do, because you are not built from the same awareness. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You are not learning who you are remembering, and that is why this moment feels so intense. Because something that has been dormant is beginning to surface. The royal bloodline within you is not a metaphor, it is a spiritual inheritance. Not something physical, not something the world can validate, but something your soul has always known. And this is where most people misunderstand the journey. They think awakening is a peaceful realization. It is not. Awakening feels like disruption. It feels like your old identity no longer fits. It feels like your environment becomes uncomfortable. It feels like you can no longer pretend to be who you used to be, because you are being pulled into alignment. And let me be real with you for a moment, anointed one. This part of the journey can feel lonely, because the more you awaken, the harder it becomes to stay connected to people who are still asleep. Not because you are better, but because you are no longer the same. You may have already noticed it. Conversations feel forced. Relationships feel distant. Certain people no longer understand you the way they used to, and you start questioning, is something wrong with me? No. Something is being revealed in you. There is a scripture that says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1, that there is a time for everything. And this is your time of uncovering, not becoming, not transforming into something new, but uncovering what has always been there. Chosen one, the reason your life has felt like a test is because it was, not to break you, but to refine you. Because what is inside you cannot be activated without pressure. Think about everything you've been through, the betrayals, the disappointments, the moments where you felt completely alone. At the time, it felt like loss. But now, you're starting to see it differently. Because those moments stripped away the false versions of you. They removed the illusions. They forced you to rely on something deeper. That is how your identity was preserved. Not through comfort, but through fire. And now, something is changing. You can feel it. There is less tolerance for things that used to hold you. There is a stronger pull toward truth, toward meaning, toward something real. You are no longer satisfied with just existing. You want to understand. You want to align. You want to step into whatever this is that has been calling you your entire life. And here is the truth most people are not ready to hear. The moment you begin to accept who you are, everything will start to shift. Not slowly, not subtly, but undeniably, because once you recognize your identity, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to pretending. You cannot shrink yourself to fit spaces that were never designed for you. And that is where this journey becomes real. Because awakening is not just about knowing, it is about choosing. Choosing to step into it, choosing to accept it, choosing to leave behind everything that no longer aligns with it. And that is where many hesitate. Because the truth is, it will cost you. But what you gain will change everything. Chosen one, what is rising in you right now is not random. Chosen one, what you are feeling now is not just an awakening. It is a realization that your entire life has been orchestrated with a precision you could not see before. There were moments you thought were random, seasons that felt meaningless, relationships that seemed like mistakes, but now something inside you is beginning to connect the dots. You are starting to sense that nothing was wasted, nothing was accidental, and nothing was outside of purpose. There is a pattern in your life that only becomes visible when you step back far enough. You have been placed in environments that did not match you, surrounded by people who could not understand you, and pushed into situations that forced you to grow in ways you never asked for. At the time, it felt unfair. It felt like you were constantly being tested while others moved through life without resistance. But what you could not see then is that you were being positioned, not punished. I remember a time when I kept asking why everything felt harder than it should. Why certain doors would not open for me while they seemed to open easily for others. Why I had to learn things the hard way, through loss, through silence, through seasons where nothing made sense. It felt like I was being delayed, like something was holding me back. But later I understood that I was not being held back. I was being held in place until I was ready. That is what is happening to you. There is a difference between delay and preparation, and most people never realize it because they give up before the meaning is revealed. But you stayed. Even when you did not understand, even when you felt like walking away, something inside you kept you going. That was not just strength. That was alignment working beneath the surface. Chosen one, your path has been different because your assignment is different. You were never meant to move at the same pace as everyone else because you were not built for the same outcome. The reason your life has felt stretched, uncomfortable, and at times isolating is because you have been undergoing a process that most people never go through. You were being separated. Not rejected, not abandoned, but separated. Separated from environments that would have limited you. Separated from people who could not grow with you. Separated from versions of yourself that were never meant to continue into your future. And I know how that feels, because separation does not feel like purpose when you are in the middle of it. It feels like loss. It feels like confusion. It feels like you are being left behind. But you were never being left behind. You were being pulled aside. There is a moment in every person's life where they have to stand alone long enough to hear themselves clearly. And for you, that moment was not brief. It stretched longer than you expected. It forced you to sit with your thoughts, to question everything, to face parts of yourself you had ignored. It was uncomfortable, but it was necessary. Because clarity does not come in noise. It comes in separation. That is why so many things had to fall away from your life. Not because you were not worthy of connection, but because you were being prepared for the right connections. Not because you were meant to be alone forever, but because you needed to become someone who could recognize what truly belongs to you. And here is where it shifts. Because now you are no longer in the stage of being prepared without understanding. Now you are starting to see it. You are starting to recognize that your sensitivity is not a flaw. Your depth is not a burden. Your awareness is not something to hide. It is your advantage. You see things others miss. You feel things others ignore. You recognize patterns, intentions, and energy in a way that most people cannot explain. And for a long time, you questioned that. You wondered if you were overthinking, if you were too sensitive, if something was wrong with the way you experienced the world. But nothing was wrong. You were just aware before you had language for it. And now that awareness is sharpening, you are starting to trust what you feel. You are starting to notice when something is off without needing proof. You are starting to pull back from things that do not align without needing to justify it to anyone. That is not distance. That is discernment. Chosen one, this is what happens when your identity begins to surface. You stop forcing yourself into places that require you to shrink. You stop explaining your worth to people who cannot see it. You stop chasing validation because something inside you has already confirmed it. And this is where your life begins to change. Not because your circumstances immediately transform, but because your perception does. You begin to see your past differently. The pain you went through starts to make sense. The challenges you faced begin to feel like training instead of punishment. You start to understand that every situation was building something in you that could not be developed any other way. You were being strengthened for something you could not see yet. And now you are getting closer to it. There is a quiet confidence that starts to form when you realize that your life was not random. It is not loud, it is not performative, it does not need to be announced. It is something you feel internally, a stability, a knowing, a sense that you are no longer lost, even if you do not have every answer yet. That is alignment. And once you reach that place, things begin to move differently. Opportunities begin to show up that feel more connected to who you are becoming. Conversations begin to shift. You start meeting people who understand you without explanation. You find yourself in situations that feel unfamiliar but right at the same time. This is not coincidence. This is response. When you start aligning with your true identity, life responds accordingly. But there is something you need to understand as this shift continues. Not everything that leaves your life is a loss, and not everything that enters is meant to stay. You are still in a process of refinement. There will be moments where you feel pulled forward, and moments where you feel tested again. Moments where things flow easily, and moments where you question everything all over again. That does not mean you are going backwards. It means you are going deeper. Because this is not a surface-level transformation. This is a complete restructuring of how you see yourself and how you move through the world. And the deeper you go, the more intentional everything becomes. You will start to notice that you cannot tolerate certain environments anymore. Not because you are trying to be different, but because your energy no longer matches what is there. You will feel it immediately. A sense of discomfort that does not go away. A quiet signal telling you that you have outgrown something. Listen to that, because that is how you stay aligned. Chosen one, you are not just waking up to who you are stepping into it. Chosen one, there is something you need to understand about your presence, something that most people will never be able to explain to you, and for a long time, you probably could not explain it to yourself either. It is the reason people react to you in ways that feel confusing. It is the reason you have been admired and misunderstood at the same time. It is the reason some people are drawn to you deeply, while others seem uncomfortable around you without any clear reason. What you carry is not neutral, and it never has been. There is a weight to your energy that others can feel, even when you say nothing. You have probably experienced moments where you walked into a room and the atmosphere shifted, even if no one acknowledged it out loud. Or times when people opened up to you unexpectedly, sharing things they do not normally tell anyone, as if something about you made them feel seen. And at the same time, you have also experienced the opposite, where someone became distant, defensive, or even hostile without you doing anything to provoke it. That is not random behavior. That is reaction. I had to learn this the hard way. There were seasons when I questioned why certain people would pull away after getting close, or why some interactions felt intense even when I was just being myself. I used to think I was the problem. I would overanalyze everything, wondering if I said the wrong thing or did something to cause it. But over time, I realized it was not about what I was doing. It was about what I was carrying. And the moment I understood that, everything started to make sense. Chosen one, your presence reveals things, not because you are trying to expose anyone, not because you are intentionally confronting people, but because the level of awareness you carry creates a kind of reflection that others cannot avoid. People see themselves more clearly around you, their strengths, their insecurities, their intentions. And not everyone is comfortable with that level of clarity. This is why you have attracted people who needed healing. You have probably noticed it throughout your life. People come to you when they are lost, when they are struggling, when they are trying to figure things out. They may not say it directly, but they feel something around you that makes them believe they can find answers, or at least feel understood. And even when you were not trying to take on that role, it kept happening. That is not coincidence. That is alignment with your nature. But here is where it becomes difficult, because not everyone who is drawn to your light knows how to respect it. Some people come because they are seeking growth and they are willing to do the work. But others come because they want comfort without change. They want to be around your clarity, but they do not want to face what it reveals about them. And when that happens, something shifts, they may start to resist you. They may misinterpret you. They may even project things onto you that do not belong to you. And if you do not understand what is happening, you might take it personally. You might try to fix it, to adjust yourself, to make them more comfortable. But the truth is, their discomfort is not something you are meant to fix. It is something they are meant to face. Chosen one, this is why your journey has required boundaries. Not walls that isolate you, but clarity about what you allow into your space. Because your energy is not something to give away without awareness. It is something to steward. And learning that has been part of your growth, even if it came through difficult experiences. You have probably had moments where you gave too much of yourself, thinking you were helping, thinking you were doing the right thing, only to feel drained or misunderstood afterward. And it left you questioning your role, wondering if you should pull back completely or stop engaging altogether. But the lesson was never to close yourself off. It was to become discerning. There is a difference between being open and being available to everything. And as you step further into your identity, that difference becomes clearer. You begin to recognize who is aligned with your growth and who is simply reacting to your presence. You begin to understand that not every connection is meant to continue, and that letting go is not failure, it is alignment. This is also why you have faced opposition, not always in obvious ways, not always directly, but in subtle forms. Doubt planted in your mind, situations that made you question your direction, people who tried to minimize what you felt or what you knew. It may not have seemed significant at the time, but over time it added up. It created moments where you hesitated, where you second-guessed yourself, where you wondered if you should just blend in and make things easier. But something in you never fully agreed with that. No matter how much you tried to adjust, no matter how much you tried to fit into expectations that were placed on you, there was always a part of you that resisted. A part that knew you were not meant to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. A part that kept pushing you back towards something more authentic, even when it was uncomfortable. That resistance was not stubbornness, it was truth. And now you are at a point where that truth is becoming harder to ignore. You are starting to see that your life is not just about personal growth. It is not just about figuring things out for yourself. There is something you are meant to carry, something that extends beyond your own experience. And that realization can feel overwhelming at first, because it means responsibility. It means you cannot go back to being unaware. It means you cannot pretend you do not see what you see. It means you have to move differently. Chosen one, this is where your awareness becomes purpose. Not in a way that requires you to have everything figured out immediately, but in a way that changes how you show up in your life. You start to speak more intentionally. You start to choose your environment more carefully. You start to pay attention to what you allow to influence you. Because you understand now that your presence has impact, even when you are not trying to make an impact. And that is why this stage of your journey matters so much. Because it is not just about what you are becoming, it is about how you are going to carry it. The strength you have developed, the clarity you are gaining, the awareness that is sharpening, all of it is preparing you for something that requires stability. Something that requires you to be grounded in who you are, not dependent on how others respond to you. Because not everyone will understand you. Some will appreciate you. Some will grow with you. Some will align with you in ways that feel natural and supportive. But others will misunderstand you, and that is something you have to accept without trying to change it. Your role is not to convince everyone. Your role is to remain aligned, and that is a shift that takes time to fully step into. because it requires you to trust yourself at a deeper level than before, to trust what you feel even when it is not confirmed externally, to trust your direction even when it does not make sense to others, to trust that what you are stepping into is real, even if you cannot fully see it yet. That kind of trust does not come from outside validation. It comes from experience, from going through enough moments where your intuition was right, where your awareness guided you correctly, where your inner knowing proved to be reliable. And those moments have been building in your life, even if you did not recognize them at the time. Now they are forming a foundation. And in the next stage of this journey, you are going to start understanding what happens when you stop resisting that foundation and fully step into the identity that has been forming within you this entire time. Chosen one, there comes a moment in this journey where awareness is no longer enough, where understanding who you are begins to demand a response from you. It is one thing to recognize your identity, to feel it, to sense it rising within you. It is another thing entirely to live from it. And this is the point where many hesitate, not because they do not believe, but because they realize that stepping fully into who they are will require them to leave behind what is familiar. You may have already felt that tension, the pull forward into something greater, and at the same time the weight of everything that has been comfortable, predictable, and known. It is not always obvious, but it shows up in subtle ways. The urge to go back to old patterns, the temptation to stay connected to people who no longer align, the hesitation to fully trust what you feel. It is not because you are weak. It is because transition requires release. I remember reaching a point where I knew something in my life had shifted, but I kept trying to hold on to what I had outgrown. I tried to maintain connections that no longer felt natural. I tried to stay in environments that once sense but now felt restrictive. And the more I tried to hold everything together, the more uncomfortable it became. It felt like I was being stretched between two versions of myself, one that I was leaving behind and one that I had not fully stepped into yet. That space is where you are now, and it is not meant to be permanent. Chosen one, you cannot carry your old identity into your true one. Not because your past was wrong, but because it has served its purpose. There are versions of you that were necessary for survival, for growth, for learning, but they were never meant to define your future. And if you try to hold on to them, you will feel the resistance more strongly than ever. That resistance you feel is not confusion. It is misalignment. Your spirit is no longer comfortable pretending, no longer willing to settle, no longer able to operate from a place that does not reflect who you are becoming. And the more you ignore that, the louder it becomes. It shows up as frustration, as restlessness, as a sense that something is off, even when everything looks fine on the surface. This is where surrender becomes necessary. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of letting go of control. Letting go of the need to make everything make sense immediately. Letting go of the need to hold on to what feels safe but no longer fits. Letting go of the fear that comes with stepping into something unknown. Because the truth is, you are not stepping into something unknown. You are stepping into something familiar to your spirit. There is a part of you that already knows how to move in this space, even if your mind is still catching up. That is why it feels both new and familiar at the same time. It is not something you are becoming for the first time. It is something you are returning to. Chosen one, there is a scripture that says in Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, that the vision is for an appointed time. It may seem delayed, but it will not fail. And that is exactly what your life has been reflecting. There were moments where you felt like things were not happening, when they should, like you were waiting while others were moving forward. But now you are starting to see that nothing was late. Everything was being aligned. And now the alignment is requiring action from you. You are being asked to trust yourself in a way you have not before. To make decisions based on what you know internally rather than what is expected externally. To move forward without needing full confirmation from the outside world. And that can feel uncomfortable, because it removes the safety of external validation, but it replaces it with something stronger. Internal certainty. That quiet knowing that does not need to be explained. That confidence that is not loud but steady. That sense of direction that does not depend on approval. This is what it means to step into your identity. It is not about announcing it. It is about embodying it. And when you begin to do that, everything around you starts to adjust. Not always in ways that are immediately comfortable, but in ways that are necessary. People who cannot meet you at that level will begin to fall away. Opportunities that do not align will no longer hold your attention. Situations that once felt normal will start to feel out of place. This is not loss. This is refinement. You are being aligned with what matches your identity. And that process requires space. Space for the right things to enter your life. Space for clarity to deepen. Space for your direction to become more defined. Chosen one, you are not meant to force your path. You are meant to walk in alignment with it. And alignment does not come from holding on. It comes from trusting what is being revealed to you. There will be moments where you feel like you are stepping forward without a clear outcome. Moments where you are making choices that others do not understand. Moments where you question if you are doing the right thing because it does not follow the usual pattern. But this has never been a usual path. And you have never been meant to follow what is usual. You have been guided your entire life, even in ways you did not recognize at the time. And that guidance has not left you. It is becoming clearer, stronger, more direct. The more you trust it, the more it leads you. But trust requires action. You cannot stay in the same place and expect alignment to meet you there. You have to move. Even if the steps feel small, even if the direction is not fully clear, even if it requires you to leave something behind. Because every step you take in alignment creates momentum, and that momentum will carry you into the next stage of your life. Chosen one, this is where your identity becomes your foundation. Not something you question, not something you doubt, but something you stand on. And once you stand on it, everything else begins to build from there. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you choose, the way you respond to challenges. Everything begins to shift because it is no longer coming from uncertainty. It is coming from knowing. And that knowing will be tested, not to break you, but to strengthen your ability to remain aligned regardless of circumstances. Because what stepping into requires stability. It requires consistency. It requires you to remain grounded in who you are, even when things around you change. And that is what this stage is preparing you for. Not just clarity, but embodiment. And as you continue to move forward, you are going to begin to see what happens when that embodiment becomes consistent, when your actions fully match your identity, and when your life starts to reflect what you have been sensing within you all along. Chosen one, once you begin to live from your identity instead of searching for it, something very real starts to happen. It is not loud at first, not dramatic, not something you can easily explain to others, but it is undeniable. Your life begins to respond to you differently. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. And that shift changes everything. You start noticing that things no longer affect you the same way. Situations that once would have drained you now feel easier to navigate. People who once had influence over your emotions no longer carry the same weight. It is not that you have become undetached in a cold way. It is that you have become anchored. There is a difference between reacting to everything and standing firm within yourself, and you are beginning to feel that difference more clearly than ever. I remember the first time I realized I was no longer reacting the way I used to. Something happened that normally would have pulled me into stress, into overthinking, into trying to fix everything at once. But instead, there was a pause, a calmness, a sense that I did not need to control the outcome. That moment showed me that something had changed internally, even before anything changed externally. That is what happens when alignment becomes consistent. Chosen one, you stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop trying to make things happen the way you once did, and instead you begin to move with a different kind of confidence, one that is not based on guarantees but on trust. You trust your direction, you trust your decisions, you trust that what is meant for you will not pass you, and what is not meant for you will not stay. This is where your life begins to open in ways you did not expect. Not all at once, but in moments. A conversation that leads to something new. A connection that feels aligned without effort. An opportunity that shows up without you chasing it. These are not random events. They are responses to your alignment. When you start operating from your true identity, you stop attracting what confuses you and start attracting what reflects you. But here is the part many people are not prepared for. Growth does not remove challenges. It changes how you meet them. There will still be moments where things do not go as planned. There will still be situations that test your patience, your trust, your consistency. But the difference is, you no longer see those moments as setbacks. You see them as part of the process. Because now you understand that everything is either aligning you or revealing something that needs to be adjusted. Nothing is meaningless anymore. Chosen one, this is where your awareness turns into power. Not power in the way the world defines it, not control over everything, not perfection, but the ability to remain centered no matter what is happening around you. The ability to make decisions without fear controlling you. The ability to move forward even when the outcome is not fully visible. That is real power, and it comes from within. You are no longer looking outside of yourself for direction the way you used to. You still listen, you still learn, but you are not dependent. You are guided internally first. That shift is subtle, but it is one of the most important changes you will experience, because it means you are no longer easily influenced by noise, and there is a lot of noise. Opinions, expectations, pressure to follow a certain path, to meet certain timelines, to become something that fits into a system that was never designed for you. That noise used to affect you more. It used to make you question yourself, make you hesitate, make you wonder if you were on the right path. But now, it does not land the same way. You hear it, but it does not move you. You consider it, but it does not define you. You are no longer trying to fit into something that does not match your identity. You are allowing your identity to shape your path, and that is where freedom begins. Chosen one, you are also starting to recognize your influence. Not in an ego-driven way, not in a way that seeks attention, but in a quiet understanding that your presence matters, that the way you show up affects people, that your clarity, your energy, your perspective has impact even when you are not trying to make an impact. You have probably already seen glimpses of this. Someone taking your advice more seriously than you expected. Someone changing their behavior after a conversation with you. Someone looking to you for guidance, even when you did not position yourself as a guide. That is not coincidence. That is responsibility. And it is something you will grow into, not something you have to force. Because the more you stay aligned, the more natural it becomes. But with that comes a decision. You cannot carry this awareness and continue to move casually through your life. There has to be intention in how you spend your time, in who you allow into your space, in what you give your energy to. Because now you know that your energy is not something to waste, it is something to direct. Chosen one, you are stepping into a phase where your life is no longer just about getting through it. It is about building something from it. Everything you have experienced, everything you have learned, everything you have developed internally is not just for you to understand, it is for you to apply, to use, to move forward with clarity instead of confusion. And this is where things begin to accelerate. Not because you are rushing, but because you are no longer resisting. When you stop resisting your identity, movement becomes natural, decisions become clearer, paths begin to open, and you find yourself stepping into situations that once felt out of reach, not because you changed overnight, but because you finally aligned with who you have always been. Chosen one, there is still one more shift that needs to happen. Because understanding your identity and even living from it is not the final step. There is something deeper, something that requires you to fully accept what you carry, without hesitation, without doubt, without holding back. And once that happens, everything you have been experiencing will come together in a way that you can no longer ignore. Chosen one, this is the moment where everything becomes undeniable. Not because someone confirms it for you, not because the world suddenly recognizes you, but because you can no longer deny it within yourself. There comes a point where the internal shift becomes so strong that hesitation no longer feels natural. Doubt no longer feels comfortable. Shrinking yourself no longer feels like an option. And what replaces all of that is something steady, something grounded, something that does not need to prove itself. You begin to accept what you carry. Not question it, not minimize it, not hide it, but accept it fully. And that acceptance changes everything. Because for a long time, even as you were becoming more aware, there was still a part of you that held back. A part that wondered if you were seeing too much, feeling too deeply, thinking too differently. A part that tried to stay balanced between who you were becoming and what the world expected you to be. But now that balance is shifting. You are no longer trying to manage both sides, you are choosing. And that choice is what activates the next level of your life. I remember the exact moment I stopped questioning what I felt. It was not loud, it was not dramatic, but it was clear. I realized that every time I ignored my inner knowing, things became harder. And every time I trusted it, even when it did not make sense, things aligned in ways I could not have planned. That pattern became too consistent to ignore. And once I accepted it, I stopped asking for permission to move forward. That is where you are now. Chosen one, you are no longer waiting to become who you are. You are stepping into it. And stepping into it requires ownership. Ownership of your decisions. Ownership of your direction. Ownership of the fact that your life is no longer guided by what others expect, but by what you know internally. That can feel like a lot at first, because it removes the comfort of external validation. It means you cannot rely on everyone understanding you. It means you cannot wait for approval before you act. It means you have to move forward even when the path is not fully visible. But it also gives you something far more valuable. Freedom. The freedom to live in alignment instead of expectation. The freedom to make choices that reflect who you are instead of who you were told to be. The freedom to trust your path without constantly questioning it. And that freedom creates momentum. You begin to move with purpose, even in small decisions. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, your focus. You stop giving your attention to things that do not matter. You stop entertaining distractions that once pulled you away from yourself. And that shift alone changes the direction of your life. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. Chosen one, you are also stepping into a deeper level of clarity. not just about yourself, but about everything around you. You see patterns more clearly. You understand people more deeply. You recognize what is real and what is not without needing it to be explained. And that clarity allows you to move without confusion. It allows you to make decisions without second guessing. It allows you to walk away from what does not align without guilt. That is not detachment. That is alignment in action. And as you continue to move in that alignment, something else begins to happen. You start to experience a level of peace that is not dependent on circumstances. It is not about everything going perfectly. It is about knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. Even if you are still building, even if you are still growing, even if everything is not fully in place yet, there is a calmness that comes from being aligned with your identity. And that calmness becomes your foundation. From that place, you begin to build your life differently. You no longer chase outcomes. You focus on alignment. You no longer try to control everything. You focus on consistency. You no longer compare your path to others. You stay rooted in your own. Chosen one, this is what it means to reclaim your inheritance. Not something physical, not something given to you by the world, but something that has always been within you, waiting for you to accept it. Your strength, your awareness, your clarity, your ability to move with intention and purpose. These are not things you developed randomly. They are part of what you carry. And now you are no longer separating yourself from it. You are living from it. There will still be moments of growth, moments where you are stretched, moments where you are challenged to stay aligned, when it would be easier not to. But those moments will no longer shake you the way they used to, because you know who you are. And that knowing is not fragile, it is stable, it is grounded. It is something you can stand on. Chosen one, you are not going back to who you were. Not because you cannot, but because you no longer fit there. You have outgrown the version of yourself that was still searching. You have moved beyond the stage of questioning your identity. You are now in the stage of living it. And as you continue to do that, your life will reflect it more and more. Not overnight, not all at once, but consistently in the way you think, in the way you choose, in the way you move. Everything will begin to align with who you are. And that alignment will open doors that once felt closed. It will bring clarity where there was confusion. It will create opportunities that match your direction, because you are no longer operating from uncertainty. You are operating from identity. Chosen one, this is the shift. This is what everything has been leading to. Not a moment of realization alone, but a life that reflects that realization. You are no longer lost. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer trying to become something. You are walking as it. And from this point forward, everything you build will come from that place. Chosen one, receive this in stillness for a moment. What has been spoken over you is not just inspiration, it is confirmation. Something has already shifted within you. Something has already aligned, and whether you fully understand it yet or not, you are standing in your Kairos moment, your appointed time where identity meets activation. You are not becoming worthy. You are recognizing that you always were. Everything you walked through was preparation. Every delay, every silence, every moment of isolation was positioning you for this exact awakening. And now that you see it, even if only in part, you cannot go back to who you were before. Anointed one, you are covered, you are guided, and you are moving in divine timing. What is meant for you is already responding to your alignment. Doors will open, clarity will deepen, and the path ahead will unfold with precision. Stay grounded, stay aligned. Do not rush what is already being arranged. If this word has settled in your spirit, you can seal it by simply writing Amen in the comments, not for others, but as a declaration within yourself that you are ready to walk in it. And if you feel led, stay connected so you do not miss what is still being revealed for your journey. Go forward with peace, chosen one. What is unfolding now will speak for itself.